Run away now.
It happened during my visit to the hospital where my unconscious sister lay. My 15-year-old niece urgently led me to the rooftop. I couldn't comprehend what was happening. I merely followed her.
Look at this,
she said, handing me something. The moment I saw it, my heart nearly stopped. Indescribable fear surged through me. Before I knew it, I had unconsciously leaped from that spot. My name is Brenda Martin, and I'm 46 years old. I've always been focused on my career rather than marriage and family. While my peers were experiencing life changes like childbirth and parenting, I stayed true to my own path. I had one sister. We lost our mother when we were young, and the three of us, my sister, my father, and I, grew up supporting each other. When my sister got married, I genuinely celebrated her happiness. Unlike me, she chose to be a stay-at-home mom, creating a happy life with her husband, their daughter, and their pet cat. However, a sense of unease began to creep into their daily routine when her daughter, Emma, started acting differently. My cheerful and energetic niece seemed to be carrying some worries. Especially when the topic of her father came up, she would suddenly become moody or fall silent. What's wrong lately? Did you have a fight with your dad? I asked. But Emma wouldn't share anything specific, responding with a vague,
No, it's nothing.
Reflecting on my own adolescence, I understood that this phase often involves disliking one's father. Meanwhile, my sister and I continued emailing each other as usual. However, one day, her replies abruptly stopped. Initially, I assumed she was busy, but even after a week, there was no response. What's going on? This has never happened before, I thought. Worried, I called my brother-in-law, but he didn't answer either. Feeling uneasy, I decided to reach out to Emma. She answered the phone, her voice trembling.
Aunt, Mom collapsed and is in the hospital,
she revealed. I was stunned. Why didn't you tell me such an important thing? I'll visit her right away. Emma hesitated.
Maybe you shouldn't come, Aunt.
Despite her awkward tone, I couldn't suppress my desire to see my sister. What do you mean? Tell me which hospital. I insisted, determined to rush there immediately. When I arrived at the hospital, I initially headed straight to my sister's room, but my niece called out from behind.
Aunt.
Oh, Emma. She urged me not to go to the room right away. Why? I came to check on your mom, and I want to see her. I insisted. Emma tugged at my arm, leading me in the opposite direction of the hospital room. Something felt off, and just then, her phone vibrated. Emma checked it, her expression turning serious as she looked at me. Who is it? Shouldn't you answer? I asked. Without saying a word, Emma led me urgently toward the rooftop. Her demeanor was unlike anything I'd seen before, and I followed her. When we reached the rooftop, Emma pulled a bottle out of her pocket in a panic. It was the vitamin container I had given my sister a few months ago. My sister had been struggling with skin issues, so I hoped the vitamins would help. However, the contents looked slightly different from what I remembered. The capsules were a completely different color. What's going on? I asked. Emma explained.
Ever since Mom started taking these supplements, her health deteriorated. She collapsed, and tests at the hospital detected poison in her system.
Shocked, I pressed her. Is your mom okay?
She survived, but she's still recovering. I can talk to her now.
Relieved. I couldn't fathom how this had happened. My mind was in turmoil.
So Dad suspected these vitamins, and they had them tested at the hospital today. Turns out, the same toxin that was found in Mom's body is in these capsules.
What?
The hospital reported it, and the police are on their way. Dad wants to use these supplements as evidence. Aunt, you need to escape before they catch you.
Emma's words left me feeling desperate. My fingerprints were undoubtedly on that bottle, and I could be accused of trying to harm my sister. But I haven't done anything. I protested. It was clear this wasn't a mere coincidence. Someone intentionally tried to harm my sister. Yet, I had no clue who would do such a thing or why.
I believe in you, Aunt. But if the police arrive, there's nothing we can do.
Yeah. I understand. Muttering, I climbed over the rooftop railing and slowly jumped. Emma's scream echoed as I plummeted, but I landed unharmed on the terrace just below the roof. In that moment, desperation drove my actions. I needed to escape. Emma, relieved by my safety, collapsed nearby. While apologizing to Emma, my mind was still in turmoil. I was torn between the fear of being caught up in something serious and the desire to somehow uncover the truth. So, I hurried out of the hospital, got into my car, and headed towards someone who could help. And the next day, I visited my sister's house, and Emma welcomed me inside. If we search the rooms, we might uncover the truth behind this, I suggested.
Yeah, I want to know why Mom ended up like this.
Emma replied, her face filled with anxiety. Perhaps she had her own thoughts about the situation. I began searching the familiar rooms, the kitchen, the living room, the dresser, everywhere. Finally, I found decisive evidence that could prove my innocence. This is... Just then, we heard the sound of the front door being unlocked.
Emma, are you home?
It was my brother-in-law, Richard, entering the room after confirming Emma's return.
Brenda? Why are you with Emma?
His surprise quickly turned into a stern expression.
You should turn yourself in. Stop causing our family more pain.
Richard accused me without hesitation. But by then, I already knew, the mastermind behind this incident was Richard himself. Even with this, can you say the same? I pulled a small plastic bag from my pocket. Inside were genuine vitamin pills. These came from your desk drawer, Richard. Did you switch the contents in the bottle? Richard's expression flickered with surprise at my words, but he quickly masked it with a forced laugh.
That's not evidence. Stop trying to blame me for your actions.
He retorted. It's true that claiming Richard orchestrated everything based solely on this might be a stretch. However, just then, Emma stepped forward.
Dad, the evidence isn't limited to this.
She held up her phone. On the screen was footage of Richard swapping the capsule contents. My sister's home had a small pet camera installed for monitoring when they were away for extended periods due to their cat. However, my brother-in-law was completely unaware of its existence. It had captured his actions.
Why would you do something so terrible?
Richard stammered.
It's just... You don't know what's inside those capsules. Why are you defending Brenda?
His voice grew louder, but sweat began to bead on his forehead. Worried for Emma's safety, I stepped in front of her. It's not over yet. There's evidence that you imported poison from overseas. I confronted him.
Huh? Did you search the house?
Yes, with Emma. It's not illegal. We didn't break in. As I spoke, I handed him a piece of paper, a printout of purchase history from Richard's computer. He had imported a poison that couldn't be legally obtained in this country.
I overheard Dad talking on the phone. You said if this plan succeeded, the inheritance would soon be yours. And Mom's health has been deteriorating, which seems suspicious.
Emma's voice trembled, tears streaming down her face.
But I couldn't tell anyone. I've been agonizing over this. If only I'd confided in you sooner.
Her eyes held a mix of sadness and relief. I hugged her gently, feeling responsible for not noticing her distress earlier. Meanwhile, Richard paced the room, searching for another excuse. But this time, he was cornered. However, seemingly at a loss for what to say next, he sighed.
Fine. It was all my plan.
His words cut through the air like a sharp blade.
When her father dies, a massive inheritance remains. But I don't have the right to claim it, so I thought of killing my wife.
Richard's hand trembled slightly, and his eyes lacked any spark. He appeared emotionally detached. But even if you killed my sister, you wouldn't inherit the estate, I said quietly, trying not to provoke him.
That's why I framed you, Brenda. Do you know? If you kill siblings for inheritance, you lose the right to inherit.
Is it really just for that? I asked. His plan was far more cruel than we could have imagined. My heart swirled with anger and sorrow.
Then Emma would inherit everything from her grandfather. She's still in middle school, so practically everything would be mine.
Emma interjected.
But Grandpa is still alive.
That's why I plan to stage an accident soon, making it look like he.
As Richard's words trailed off, the room grew even heavier with tension. Having confessed everything, he seemed lost, unsure of his next move. What do you intend to do? I asked, feigning calm while fear and tension gripped me.
Shut up. This marriage was always about my father-in-law's inheritance, and if it weren't for you...
He shouted, out of breath, kicking a nearby chair. This can't continue. I thought. Just then, Richard lunged at us. Instinctively, I pulled Emma toward me, holding her small frame tightly. Suddenly, sirens blared from outside.
Police! Hands up!
I had secretly alerted the police before arriving here. Officers stormed in, swiftly restraining Richard.
Brenda! Emma! Help me! She's fine now, right? Tell them it was all a mistake.
Not so fast. Your actions endangered my sister's life. You need to face the consequences. I pushed back against Richard's tearful pleas. He stood there, speechless. Finally relieved from tension, we gradually regained our composure. Finally safe, I hugged Emma tightly, feeling her trembling but seeing a hint of calm in her eyes.
Take him away.
Richard, handcuffed, remained silent, staring blankly. To deliver the final blow to my brother-in-law, I looked him straight in the eyes. You didn't need to do all this. The inheritance was already yours.
What do you mean?
His eyes widened, and he swallowed hard. Yesterday, I visited our dad. He liked you and intended to share the inheritance from the start. But now, that's all null and void. I revealed. Yes, the person I met was our father. In fact, when Emma and I talked on the hospital rooftop, she mentioned that Richard had discussed inheritance matters on the phone. So, I went to investigate our father's estate.
This can't be.
His expression at that moment will stay with me forever. Confusion and despair seemed to crash over him simultaneously, shock rendering him speechless. Subsequently, Richard was naturally arrested, and the news spread nationwide. He faced societal consequences, and his life after release would undoubtedly be challenging. Meanwhile, my sister recovered safely after ingesting a small amount of poison. Of course, my sister divorced my brother-in-law, and she is claiming $30,000 in alimony and child support. Ironically, he will now be burdened with those payments, having aimed for the vast inheritance. As for me, I continued visiting my sister and niece, supporting them in their lives. Just as we did in childhood, my sister and I would face the future together, bound by unbreakable ties. Believing that beyond adversity lies a bright future.
Please consider subscribing to our channel. Until next time in our next video.